told them itself. When I told offline the GPT.
All right, so we will be starting our session today. All right. First of all, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Lian Michael, Club Advisor for UOW Malaysia IEM Student Chapter, and I would like to thank you for creating a time, all right, from your busy schedule to join our Industrial Empowerment Series today titled Big Data and Machine Learning, the Promise and Peril. Before I pass the stage to my colleague and also the moderator for this session today, Ms. Alina binti Mohamad, I would like to share with you a few ground rules to ensure that the webinar is conducted smoothly and effectively. Okay, so first of all, please be informed that this session will be recorded and will be published on our social media. And by joining this webinar, you can consent to being recorded again. All right, and your microphone has been muted to avoid background noise and distractions. If you have any question or comments, please use the chat feature to do so. Our moderator will address your questions and comments during the Q&A session later on. And we will be taking a group photo later on at the end of this webinar session. So please make sure that you turn on your camera later on. We'll give you a sign for that, yeah? All right, so why not we start our session by passing it to Miss Salina, all right?
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. You can hear me, guys? Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, especially to our speakers, Mr. Ray and Mr. Dharma. Also to all the participants, internally or external, thank you for joining us today for the empowerment series, yeah, Big Data and Machine Learning, the Promise and Peril. So before we start with the seminar or webinar or talk, yeah, let me introduce our speakers first. So we have Mr. Renganathan Palanisamy. So he's a director at Essentia Asia, and he has extensive experience delivering data and AI training, authorized instructor, teaches courses and cloud platforms, data management and analytics. He also mentors teams implementing data solution across on-premises and cloud environments. Yeah. So Mr. Ray, as what he like us to call him, yeah, also like to explore area like cloud, AI, data science, and quantum computing. Okay, so we will have a lot of sessions and experience sharings from Mr. Ray later. And second speaker, we have Mr. Dharmandran Sivapattasundram. He is a hardware engineer. Yeah, some of you might seen him before in the campus. Yeah, if you're a student of UOW, he's helping us with a few final year project titles. Yeah, so he's a hardware engineer at Micro ID Sdn Berhad. So he holds a master degree in electronics and system engineering, bachelor in E&E engineering, and diploma in E&E engineering. And for your information, Mr. Dharma also our alumni. Yeah. And he has a wide range of skills in programming, especially MCU programming in assembly language, C and C++ programming, front-end programming using Visual Basic, React JavaScript, Vue JavaScript, Flutter, and also the programming of back-end using Python and Node JavaScript. So he also experienced with microcontrollers such as microchip, STM32, Arduino, ESP32, ESP8266, PCB designing, AI application such as YOLO, Jetson Nano, NVIDIA, AWS Server, and Docker. Yeah. So we also hope to get a lot of information and sharing sessions from both of the speakers today. And like Mr. Michael just mentioned just now, if you guys have any questions, you can just put it in the chat. So I will check it once in a while, and I will throw questions to the speakers as we go throughout the speech. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to call our first speakers for today, Mr. Ray, to share his insight on the big data as well as on the machine learning based on the experience and application in today's work. So I'll pass to you, Mr. Ray, for the next sessions. Yeah.
Selena, thank you very much. And very good afternoon to all the engineers who are attending this session. So good to be here on the Tuesday afternoon, 30th of May, right? So before we begin, just a quick check on how many of you are actually already started working on any form of big data or machine learning usage in your current workload? Just a quick show of hand will do. If you are already using some sort of big data or machine learning algorithms in your, maybe in your project or in your implementation currently. Okay, I think we have one hand raised. Asalina, okay. Okay, so good. So we have one more, Dhiren who's also working on this environment. Yeah, okay, great. Chua Jun Hong. Okay. Okay, thanks for the feedback. Okay, so let me move on with the content that I'm going to share with you. Big data and machine learning, promise and peril's engineering use cases. I believe Dharmendran will be able to provide more insights on the actual usage later once we go through this content here. Yeah. So first thing that we need to understand is what is big data and machine learning in the first place, right? What is big data and machine learning, and how is it currently being used in engineering aspect, and some of the technical requirements in terms of what you intend to use it for. Okay, and how do you get access to those environments? So later I will be sharing some of the links where you can view, okay, where you can view some of these resources that will help you to go about doing this implementation as well, and some of the use cases and some of the personalities with whom you can follow in terms of implementing this in your own environment later. Okay, so let's get a better understanding of what big data is first. Is in the first place. So when we say big data, okay, what is the comparison? Why is that the term big that comes about? Data is data, right? Why there's small data, big data, medium data, all these terms coming into the picture. So basically, it is to differentiate between the type of data that you're going to deal with. Okay, so traditionally, when we talk about data in the usage of data in traditional manner, we are really referring to relational data, where the data may be stored into a database, and then you pull the data by means of using SQL statements and use it in your application environment. And when you're dealing with sensor-based data that is coming in, it's basically electronic signals that you're going to process and make that available. So big data comes about recently, the past decade, when we talk about large volumes of structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. So what is this structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data? Basically, when we say structured data, this is those data that comes from your database. Maybe you have a few tables that contains all the data that you're going to use. Semi-structured is what you may find coming from your web application, your APIs, your sensors, where it may send in a format that can have an overall structure, such as your JSON data that comes from your web application where you're exchanging messages with your systems. And unstructured data usually refers to those data such as your media, your video, your audio, right? Those which cannot be broken down into smaller segments to be processed. So most of the time when we talk about engineering data, such as your sensor data that is coming in, you need to have some sort of means to capture the data and then process them. Okay, some means of capturing the data and processing them. So these data sources usually have a very high volume of data that is going to come in, and you need to be able to capture them. So big data is the term that they will use to refer to this data that comes in high volume, high velocity. That means it's continuously going to come in a variety of data that you need to process. So it can be a sensor data, user input. It may be coming from your social media. It may be coming from your games, online games that you may be participating in. So you have a variety of data that's going to come in. And last but not least, the veracity of the data. That means how much of that data is going to be an authentic data that you can process. So when we say big data, if you're going to make use of IoT devices, for example, IoT devices, those devices are usually going to provide you, those devices are usually going to provide you message data that comes from the device, and it has to be sort of like analyzed and then broken down into pieces that can be processed by your system. So usually they come in a form of semi-structured data. Okay, semi-structured data. Now you will notice that uh, right up to about 10 years ago, right, 2013, be exact, not much of these capabilities are available for you to use because it requires high compute capabilities, high storage capabilities, and the ability to receive and process them with ease by means of making that capabilities available in your own premises as well. So you enable the storage, management, and analysis of this massive data set to extract the valuable insights and drive informed decision making. Okay, so if you think of autonomous car, right, Tesla, um, maybe 15 years ago, that wouldn't be possible for you to use, okay? Because the amount of data that is going to generate, that is going to be processed immediately was not possible before this, okay? But then with the use of cloud computing and also the use of edge services that comes with it, you're now able to process this kind of data, okay? You're able to process this kind of data. So big data, as what I mentioned, refers to the large volume. So we're talking about terabyte, petabyte worth of data per second. Okay, not just for the whole entire operation, but per second you may have terabyte worth of data that you're going to generate. Okay, you can always see this when you're using your phone now. Okay, even when you're using your phone now, each of us are generating gigabyte worth of data daily, right? Gigabyte worth of data. So at the end of the day, you look at your phone storage, it has grown by 10 gigabyte, right? So that's the amount of data one person is generating just using one device. So imagine the amount of data that's out there in the social media and also in the sensors that you're going to use. So when it comes to engineering data, basically you have IoT devices. So I think Diamondon later will share with you some of the examples of how it is being used in its environment as well, where we look at in terms of using um, sensors, okay, IoT devices that is capable of sending back information to the system and also to each other in order to coordinate and perform certain tasks. And that's going to generate quite a lot of data as well, right? Telemetric data that's going to come in, and you need to be able to process them accordingly. So one of the things that you're going to use those data for is to feed into the machine learning model. Okay, so that comes to the second thing that we're going to talk about, which is on machine learning. Nowadays, even the simplest thing that you do on your mobile phone, there's some sort of AI capabilities in it. Okay. When you add filter, you take your photo, selfie, right? Swap photo, you take your selfie. You want to put the cat ears, the cat eyes. How does it know where's your ears located? How does it know where's your eyes located? So it's processing those data, right? It's processing that unstructured data, which is your video, and it's trying to capture the location by mapping it against your face and then applying that filter. All right. So even that simplest thing requires the use of machine learning capabilities or AI capabilities to be available on that device. So when we talk about machine learning, we are talking about the subfield of artificial intelligence, whereby contrary to the traditional way of programming, where we'll use a lot of what do you call conditional statements, looping statements, etc., to get work done. Where we say, if you find this, this is the outcome. If the sensor sends the following signal alarm, that that means you should be alerted, and then you go and handle the things. So the traditional way of programming doesn't work as much right now. So you have these machine learning capabilities that will be incorporated into the solution, right? So you have those capabilities of developing algorithms and models that can learn from data and make predictions or decisions without being explicitly programmed. Okay, so there are few learning mechanisms that you will use: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So when it comes to robotics, for example, it may be of interest to your mechatronics students. So you have a mechatronic engineering bachelor and postgraduate students, I believe, where you are looking at how to go about training your mechanical systems, for example. You need to have some sort of machine learning capabilities incorporated into it so that it can learn. Okay, it can learn and then apply what it has learned to make some decisions or predictions that would help you to decide how to move forward. Okay, for example, when you talk about autonomous car, when a person is driving, when they see an obstacle in front of the car, okay, when they see an obstacle in front of the car, they need to process the data that comes in. Okay, and it's all going to happen in split second, where they need that information to make some prediction. So there is a machine learning model that will be in that system that processes the incoming data and then provide a prediction of or decision of what to do. Should we avoid the obstacle, or should we go around, or should we apply the brakes? So these kind of things are made possible with the implementation of machine learning and algorithms that will be trained prior to the usage of it. And when we say trained, it relies on big data. Okay, when we say it's trained, it relies on big data. So a lot of mathematical models will be applied. Okay, mathematical models will be applied in implementing this. And by means of having a high compute capabilities made available right now, it is possible for you to leverage on that to allow the training to take place. And with the high storage capacities that we have currently, especially on the cloud environment, it is possible for you to capture those data that comes from your devices, etc., and make that available for further processing, immediate processing, almost real-time processing if you want to. So the combination of both of these big data and machine learning is going to be very useful, and especially when it comes to engineering implementation, There are a lot of use cases that you can think of using these algorithms and machine learning capabilities. Okay, so any questions so far? Just have a quick check. No, huh? Okay. Right. So there are three types of machine learning algorithm techniques that you will be using. We call it as supervised learning, which is usually used for the purpose of prediction, right? Where you provide a label for that content and make that available. Unsupervised learning is when you provide certain amount of data in an exploratory, right? In an exploratory process where you use that to group together relevant data, such as when you talk about, let's say, you have a new device that you're testing out, and this device is basically going to generate a different variations of the signal strength, and you want to interpret how many times the signal strength received was of a certain capacity or certain range of signal strength. So you categorize it and you say, okay, 100 of this signal occurrence is of a strong category, 100 of this is of medium capacity, and 200 of it is lower. So you group together to cluster the data using unsupervised learning. And when it comes to robotics, you will use a lot of these reinforcement learning capabilities. Okay, and speaking of reinforcement capabilities, let me just quickly show you how this is being applied. So this may be of interest to mechatronics students. So your expertise will be pretty much needed in the coming years because of the use of robotics. So let me just quickly play this for you. I'm sure most of you have heard of Boston Dynamics. So this is from Boston Dynamics. Yeah.
They can run at speeds of 28 miles per hour. They can open doors and do your dishes. They can dance and do gymnastic routines. Over the last decade, Boston Dynamics robots have come a long way, and their evolution is uncanny. Big Dog. Boston Dynamics debuted its first-legged robot, Big Dog, in 2004.
Okay, so just to give you a scenario, this kind of machineries, which involves both mechanical parts and electronic parts, and the use of reinforcement learning, right, which makes it possible for it to learn by experience. So when it tries to walk initially, you will notice that it doesn't walk properly, but over the years with the continuous
It
reinforcement
was
learning,
designed to be a pack mule for soldiers. The four-legged robot could carry around 400 pounds and
okay, so eventually it becomes better at that process of walking or learning how to walk. Same goes for other systems that they have developed over the years.
Dynamics. With a top speed of 28.3 miles per hour, Cheetah was faster than Usain Bolt. The good news for Bolt is that Cheetah was confined to a treadmill system by its plugged-in hydraulic tethers. In 2011, its free-running offspring, the Wildcat, arrived. Wildcat could run at a speed of 16 miles per hour without losing its balance, thanks to dynamic control algorithms and an array of sensors.
Okay, so as you can see, they talk about the use of sensors and also the ability to control the mechanical system being put in place. So eventually they came up with this one.
At 160 pounds, it was much smaller and quieter than its previous canine-inspired ancestor robots. Spot could walk at speeds up to 3 miles per hour, climb terrain, avoid obstacles, see 360 degrees, and perform several programmed tasks. In 2016 came Spot's little brother, the Spot Mini. It was by far the quietest and smallest Boston Dynamics robot up.
Okay, so eventually it came up to this one, which is Spot Mini, which they renamed it as Spot. And this particular robot is going to go on the Mars mission, right? So this will be one of the one that's going for the Mars mission. So you notice earlier that someone kicked the robot. Okay, they are not actually torturing the robot, they're actually teaching it how to react to a particular situation. So when they kick the robot, basically it's trying to balance again based on what it has learned. So it knows when there's a force applied to the side, it needs to balance with the four legs and try to regain that balance again. So all this is what we call as reinforcement learning, and it makes it possible for you to come up with those functionalities.
Such as picking up fragile objects, opening doors, and even doing the laundry. So far, Spot has gained most of its success as an inspection robot.
Okay, so here you can see that it's being applied. So once it's ready, they start to apply it for actual usage. So it's being used in nuclear plants, and also in a military situation where it's being used with the France army. Yeah? So these are things that is going to be things that you will be seeing very frequently because of the capability that we have right now to be able to perform this kind of task. So you have others, like you can see almost humanoid type of robot. So
In
this is
2013, Atlas is a free-running version of Petman. To a
okay.
tether and could walk, squat, and do push-ups. It was developed to test the performance of protective military gear against chemical warfare agents. Atlas.
Okay, so during the training, they need to have all these capabilities tested. And after the reinforcement learning is used, the outcome will be a functional robot that you can see being used here.
Manipulate objects in its environment. Atlas can do gymnastic routines, such as backflipping and parkour. One can only imagine what Atlas will be up to in 5 years from now.
Okay, so these are some examples of reinforcement learning that I wanted to show you here. Okay, so what are the areas in which that big data and machine learning is being used in the industry? So you have a lot of predictive maintenance work that is being done by means of incorporating it in the manufacturing environment. Okay, so predictive maintenance. So we have a lot of MNCs that are using this for the purpose of monitoring their production line in order to use the sensor data to be able to capture and identify if there's a need to send those machineries for maintenance work or otherwise. You have structural health monitoring in civil engineering. So with the use of sensors at the specific locations where you have all this data that's being gathered and processed. Energy optimization in smart grids, autonomous vehicles and traffic management. Okay, so if you notice the LRT operations in Malaysia, basically we don't have much of a intervention. It almost runs autonomously. Unless there is any issue, then they make a stop to that particular system. So all this is made possible with the use of extensive data, big data, and also machine learning capabilities that helps it make some prediction. So just to give you an overview of all the different areas that it is being used. Okay. So what's happening right now is you have a lot of increased adoption and integration due to the strong availability of cloud computing and edge analytics capabilities. so that usage of analysis process is now closer to the intended users, making it possible for you to leverage on those cloud computing resources that has high storage, high compute capabilities made available for you to use. So one of the concerns that you will have, however, is that you have this ethical usage considerations, ethical usage considerations in terms of how far can you go in terms of implementing an AI solution in the engineering area where it does not cross over the ethical concerns or doesn't violate ethical concerns, for example, especially in areas that deals with health, security, safety, where you need to give it more concern over the use of big data and machine learning algorithms in it. Okay, so you may be providing some health equipments and you want to incorporate this prediction using that health equipments. Probably you need to look at in terms of how well it responds to people, for example, of different gender or different race, where they may have different color tones, for example. Those kind of things are all what we call as ethical considerations. Ethical considerations when we're using this system. So a lot of advancements, especially in the use of IoT devices, helps to go about improving the usage. So with the affordability of using sensors, now I believe IoT devices, even for 15 ringgit, you can get, right? 15 ringgit, you can get some of these sensors up and running and working, and you can use those devices for the purpose of implementing your system. This was not possible 10 years ago, right? You probably have to buy those devices at those available devices at 1,000 or 2,000 per sensor, per piece of equipment. Now it's very cheap, very advanced with Wi-Fi capabilities, and you can get it at 30 ringgit. So it makes it possible for you to do your system at cost. Okay, so these are things that's helping you come about with the solution using this. So to help you with this, you need to be able to understand how the data collection and pre-processing should be. What would be the features that you need to select and make available for that analysis purpose? Okay, and then some of the algorithm selection that you need to be wary of, and which model that you're going to use for the purpose of performing those actions. And then you look at in terms of validation and testing. Okay, so there are a lot of areas in which you need to look at in terms of understanding how to go about doing this implementation. How to go about doing this implementation. So a quick show of where you can find more information about these use cases. Let me just quickly go and show you. This is one of the implementers who are using a lot of IoT devices, Sanjeev Venkatram. You probably may want to follow his LinkedIn because he has a lot of implementation, the technical implementation aspects in the use of IoT devices in engineering use cases. Okay, so this is one. Let me just quickly show you one of his videos.
Greetings, everyone. Hope you're well and safe. What you see here is an example of an automated system providing real-time alerts using a combination of Microsoft technologies and some Python code. This shows a granulator with temperature measurements used in the pharma industry. Now, a few things about this setup. The application on the left is built using Microsoft Power Apps, and can be customized to make usage simple for production workers. You can have an image or a process flow that is relevant to the production worker, and the respective data cards carrying telemetry can be located close to where the actual measurements are on the equipment that is being sourced. Now, the alerts can be displayed in different colors to make it easy for the operators to consume data. We could go one step further and fully automate the process without needing manual intervention from the workers. On the top right here, critical information can be sourced to a team of production workers who are on Microsoft Teams. The card here, also known as an adaptive card, carries critical information and allows for easy collaboration amongst the workers. The data from the sensors through the devices, a Raspberry Pi in this case, is acquired using some Python code and Azure IoT Central as an orchestrator. This information is further carried by Power Automate to Power Apps and then to Microsoft Teams for relevant actions. An interesting aspect is to experiment with Python code on Azure IoT Central to make sure there is no latency in data movement, as you can see. In summary, a great way to lend a hand to frontline workers to keep them safe and improve cycle time. Well, want to know more? We'll be going over this in our April community meetup here in Singapore. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is one of the use cases. So they make use of what we call as Power Platform. And this Power Platform is easily accessible to users who have Office 365. And if you have Office 365 subscription, you can just add on Power Platform and you can develop systems like this on your own. So it makes it more approachable. It is easier for you to make use of what is readily available at your expense to go about developing this. Okay, and to make it even easier, Microsoft just announced Microsoft Copilot for Power Platform that makes it even easier for you to develop. I'm sure you heard of ChatGPT and its capabilities. So Microsoft Copilot that provides those functionalities of prompt-based content generation is made available for Power Platform as well. So you ask what needs to be done, it'll give you an idea of how that is going to be performed. So other use cases, if you're on AWS, basically you can look at the AWS use cases. So if I look at in terms of engineering use cases, for example, in energy, okay, and how to go about using energy consumption, and then making sure that you optimize the energy usage by means of monitoring and making changes based on the sensors and so on. You can basically look for those use cases from the AWS site that I'm showing you right here. Okay, and the other one would be Azure case studies, where you can look at the manufacturing environment and try to understand or leverage on those usage where we're going to use this for the purpose of identifying, right, some of the use cases and also looking at how they go about implementing, okay, this context. So one of the closest one you have is Daikin, okay. So they have usage of use cases where they make use of Azure machine learning for the purpose of implementation in their environment. Okay, so those are a few things that I wanted to talk about. So there are a lot of challenges. So these are challenges that will be that you may be facing when you're talking about the use of big data and machine learning in your environment. One of it is the data quality. How good is your data? Is it enough to train the system? Okay, how much of data that you have? Do you have good data quality? Okay, and whether or not that data that you have available, okay, whether or not the data that you have available is meeting the requirements needed to train the system. Because you must understand it's not programming based. What data you provide is going to be going to determine how good is your prediction, how good is your um, uh, decision making capabilities going to be. So if you have data that is of low quality, garbage in, garbage out. So you're getting only those implementations which are not going to be useful in any manner. Okay. Then second thing is in terms of privacy and security concerns, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data like health data of a patient, for example. So there are possibilities that accidentally or intentionally some data may be leaked during the usage in your prediction environment. Okay, and then you have this what you call interpretability and explainability concerns as well. Okay, so let's say there's a prediction that's happening. How well can you decide why it predicted in such a way? So that's what we call as interpretability and explainability in the terms basically it addresses those concerns of yes, we are getting prediction, but why that prediction came about? Why that prediction came about? Okay. The next is algorithmic bias and ethical issues. This one we talk about those scenarios where you may have devices, for example, or let's say sensors that are not picking up the signals like it's supposed to due to lack of multicultural sample being used. For example, let's say we're talking about skin care, and most of the data that you gathered for is gathered for people who are of fair skin nature. And when you use it on those who are having dark skin, for example, it doesn't detect as well as expected, or it may ignore and give wrong prediction due to lack of that data that you're going to use. Okay, and then the last one, computational resources and infrastructure. This one we can easily solve with the use of cloud computing resources. So solutions and best practices. Basically, we need to look at data governance and quality assurance as part of resolving this. Privacy preserving techniques, we need to react the data if it touches on private data, anything that has to do with personal data, we want to mask it out, for example, right? Ensure when you do the machine learning training, you incorporate the explainability and transparency principles into it, and then you detect whether there is any biasness in your implementation. For the infrastructure, you basically can make use of cloud computing resources to overcome this. Okay, right. So in the interest of time, let me just run through very quickly. So let's say you're preparing for this particular implementation and you're at the beginning stage. Okay, beginning stage. This will be the flow of things that you need to learn. Okay, at the current implementation phase, you need to understand first what is data science and machine learning. You need to have some programming skills, especially in languages such as Python and R programming that is usually used for this purpose. But that doesn't mean other programming languages are not usable. There's also MATLAB-based AI implementation or machine learning implementation modules made available. You can leverage on that. Java programming or MATLAB is also supported, so not to worry. Statistics and probability, because eventually what machine learning uses to come up with a prediction is these two things, statistics and probability. Okay, and then understand how to visualize the data, understand what big data technologies are available, and of course, you need the domain-specific knowledge, in which case this will be your engineering area on which you want to do that implementation. Next, you look at the data ethics and privacy, problem-solving skills, which I believe is not an issue. And then you look at in terms of incorporating interdisciplinary skills, because you need to work along with people with different skill sets to be able to achieve what you want to do. You have data engineers, you have to talk to your what you call business analyst, data analyst. You need to look at the developer, right? And also finally the domain expert, right? Subject matter experts. So all of them have to work together to achieve this. And last but not least, you need to have some continuous learning to be done, because this is an ever evolving area. Okay, now one more thing before I pass the session back to Selena. I'm sure you heard a lot about ChatGPT and prompt engineering. There's a new term that's being mentioned very frequently. Prompt engineer. Okay, prompt engineer. Just to let you know, it's just a hyped up term for a profession. Huh? It's not something that you need to worry about. Prompt engineering is not a formal engineering area. It's basically a way to ask questions. So just like when you look at search engine, right? When search engine was first introduced by Google, right? So let's say when you start using Google, you need to know how to ask the right question, how to use the and operator, or operator, double quote, when to use all those things. So similarly, now with the introduction of GPT models, you need to know how to ask the right thing, how to put it into context and use that. Okay, so to help you with that understanding of prompt engineering, okay, don't worry, it's not going to be, I mean, it is considered a bit disruptive, but don't worry too much. Okay, it's just going to be hyped for the next maybe 1 year or two. After that, all the prompt engineers will have to retire. Okay, so we are back in business. So to learn about prompt engineering, if you're interested, try just not to rely too much on it, but understand how it can be leveraged on. So there's this introduction to prompt engineering link that I will provide you later for you to look at on how to ask the question proper so that you get what you need. And this can be applied to also your engineering environment, where you ask questions by giving certain cues specific to your use cases. Okay, right. So I think that's it from me. I'll pass you back to Selena and Dharmendran. Right. Thank you. I don't see any questions in the chat window as well. So if you do have any questions, please put in the chat window. I will try to answer as best possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ray. Okay, so as mentioned, yeah, if you have any questions, I can just put in the chat, and I believe our speaker will help to answer. So before I move to Mr. Dharma, Mr. Ray, one question, yeah, because we
Yeah.
always just now when you are presenting, is always the ethical issues come in. So I'm just wondering, in Malaysia currently, do we have any kind of like governance body or any kind of standards beside the Personal Data Act protections? Like, is there any other bodies or standards that we have to use for this big data kind of retrieving and so on? Do we have any
Yes,
kind
we
of
do.
can
Yes, we do. Okay. So you have this Malaysian National Artificial Intelligence Roadmap that was announced. So I would advise you to get hold of this playbook, which will guide you through on that implementation of AI. So since machine learning is part of AI implementation, you can look through this one to do the implementation.
Okay, that's good. Okay, at least you can refer to on the framework or on some of the do's and don'ts that we have to follow. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay. So basically there is one, and this is where you can look at it. So there's a roadmap that has been established and a guide that will be provided on how to go about implementing this. So you look at principles of responsible AI for that purpose.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ray. Okay, now I think we move to Mr. Dharma for a while. Maybe we come back with Mr. Ray later. So, Mr. Dharma, in your opinion now, what is your insight in the big data or this machine learning impact that they have on our life today in general, and specifically in, let's say, your industry, because you're working a lot with all these hardware kind of things related to computing and all. So what is your insight, and where do you think that the biggest impact it has on our life today?
Okay, so after seeing Mr. Ray's presentation slides and all those kind of things, it was very wonderful, and the inside of it was good. But at the same time, while looking at it, then suddenly that's the moment and it occurred to me that we always think and talk about AI, artificial intelligence, artificial AI here, AI here. We always forget the OI right now, the original intelligence.
Original intelligence, yes.
So what I'm trying to say is the part of engineering, right? The engineering fields and all that. Whatever we're creating is the extension of ourselves. Okay, so the vision, our speech, the actions, everything. What we do is we are capable of doing it, and we are just extending it to specifically enhance it or speed it, those kind of things only. So all this while we've been doing with sensors and all that, and now becomes with informations, which is we are trying to extend our brain itself and all that. So by looking at the OI, I mean, as a human, for instance, the big data, and the meaning of the big data, why it was so important itself was, for instance, like my grandfather used to work and all that. He used to say that I smell the grass. I think it's going to rain heavily and all this kind of thing. Then we just go in, and the night will rain, and suddenly it rains heavily. There's no clouds initially, nothing, but it shows that how many years of experience to know certain things came into that and to make a conclusion immediately. So the big data, what we are doing is the actions of we taking the informations and all those kind of things and analyzing through that and to do a prediction that helps us to get the information. So such as that, in my industries and all those kind of things, we are looking at humans for which they couldn't solve. That means they're having trouble. Some people have troubles and not even realizing what trouble they have. So that's where we end up looking at it and say that I think this redundant job, we can feed it into the system, okay, and get the result immediately. And that's where the big data collecting the informations and the AI, the artificial intelligence, making that conclusion, which helps us in our daily life. So industry purposes and all those kind of things, which we go in like human attendance sequence and all that. Looking at it, we're able to analyze the human profiling, how they act. Certain people only will access the server and come back, and certain people doesn't access the server. So right now we can implement an AI and say that why this individual suddenly appears into the server room. So the AI can able to predict and say that alert, okay, this is what. So initially is we are able to go through the pages. We are able to, hey, but we need to go through the data every single time, going through the reports and all those kind of things. So now we implement the AI into it to make a prediction, say that this person's pattern is this person's pattern is this, and now this person went out of his pattern. So there might be some correlation between the out of those patterns and all that.
Mm.
So that's where the big data AI came into the picture. So yeah, in your question was is how we implement it in our industries, is it?
Yeah, I mean specifically for your company lah, or
Yes.
your background. Yeah, yeah.
So in my company, one is we do access controls and all that. So one of it, we collect the informations of people initially used to take as attendance, okay, and now trying to feed the data into it and to get the human profiling each one of it. Especially in Malaysia, we have a different type of attendance system than compared to any other countries, where we have shift, night shift, day shift, and all those kind of things. In Australia, the people were 9 to 5. That's it. There's no other work. In Malaysia, we have a person comes Monday different timing, Tuesday different timing, Thursday different timing, and different environments. Oh God, we came to a point we cannot even find a pattern how to fit to do it. So we have to think about how to rely on AI to do that one.
Okay, so what are the other challenges beside whatever Mr. Ray has explained to us just now, and what kind of other risks that you can see maybe will come 5 to 10 years in the future, besides whatever we already have now?
Yes. So mainly most of the customers always says that they don't want to put their data into centralized public cloud systems and all those kind of things because of their credentials and all that. Even most of the data that had to deal with construction areas and peoples and all those kind of things have to build the server in-house server itself and put it there itself, and without even relying on the cloud infrastructures. So the transitions between this is going to be a troublesome because putting it in-house, then when there's a problem, we have to go in person to do the work itself. So there's no such thing as remotely to be able to do certain tasks. So this type of problem is there, okay? And other than that, because their concern is the privacy and the breaches between the AI in the external. When I bring the to the internet, that means it's everyone is able to access it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there are certain data that we have to build it in a way that there's no access to the internet itself, but all in the house condition. So yes, this ethical part also they are concerned. So now is to see that how are we going to actually improve the ethicality of what I call it, make safe the data that we can bring it to the cloud itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, because I also have this kind of inquiry, and then suddenly Dr. Siva or also pop up these questions. Yeah, so cyber criminals are exploring various new ways to commit cybercrime and to get access to the computer system and network illegally. Okay, so the question is that is there any role of big data in it? Because if I can go and crack the Genting casino, whatever, maybe you can predict like which machine I can use that I can win 1 million or whatever. So how this because it's we know it always the cyber criminals. Mr. Ray, you want to have your insight?
Okay. All right. So it can go both ways. Huh? We call them as bad actors, good actors and bad actors. There's always a risk in any implementation that we do. And definitely, yes, there is some role of big data where they make use of those data that they tapped into to actually carry out the crime activity, right? So there is, they are also using some sort of prediction capabilities that is going to help them to hack into the system in the first place. So there is an element of misuse, what we refer to as bad actors. It will be in every system that you're going to do. And just to let you know, when quantum computing comes about, the current security measures that we have in place, cybersecurity, all is going to be compromised. Okay,
Okay.
because quantum computing has these capabilities of breaking security algorithms at a much faster pace. So something that may take 200 years to break can be done in matters of minutes with use of quantum technology. So cybersecurity is now also looking at areas on how to make it quantum proof
Okay.
safety
Okay.
measures, right? So there's always there is always a concern there.
Yes, yes, yes. Because
Mm.
when, if I'm not mistaken, I think last 2-3 weeks, yeah, your ITM had a leak of data, like all the participants they have, and all these parents, of course, they get mad because suddenly out of nowhere they have all these things coming into their mobile because everybody is trying to promote, all these SPM levers, yeah. So
Oh, okay.
Mr. Dharma, so it happened, and people are not liking it. So how can we actually tell the people, especially not, I mean, we are from engineering background, so we understand. But those who not coming from it, and they, when they have this experience, they also have this perception is AI and everything is actually very dangerous. So how we can tell them, Mr. Dharma, in your opinion, that okay, I mean, this happened, but it's actually more advantageous than, I mean, to our life. So what's how in your opinion we need to tell public?
Okay, that's yeah. So why I'm trying to tell you, because I had to encounter that kind of people
Oh,
in
okay.
this kind of
Yeah.
situation.
That's it. So in your experience, how?
So it's hard actually. It's hard because their level of see knowledge is the one is differentiates one individual and another individual, and the area that you cover as a lawyer has his own knowledge and the
Mm,
engineers has their own knowledge,
correct.
but the fear is something real to everyone. And my fear is totally different from your fear as well. So their fear is AI is something is going to happen means the first of all is I have to talk to them and say that AI is not the problem. It's the people who's using the AI is the
People,
problem.
yes. It's a user issue.
Yeah. So I normally always tell them only one thing. I'll always came up with this simplest idea of all. It's the knife. Okay. So I always tell them to one of the people say, you see, when I had a doubt, if I was the creator of the knife, if I was sitting there and thinking, should I create the knife? Because it's going to be helpful, but at the same time, there are people who's going to use it to
Yeah.
do something illegally. And so, do I do it or don't do it? If I sit there, I eventually will never do anything better and all that. So I had to sit there. No, my purpose is to do it for something good, do it, and publicity as
Mm,
good as possible. Then, hopefully, at the same time, pray and also ask the peoples and all this. And then they emphasize the enforcement to make sure that there are no other things.
Yeah.
So I tell
Wait.
them the same thing. We can't do anything about the intention of the people who wants to do misbehave part. So
Okay, that is a good analogy. Maybe later if my student asks, then I can use the analogy as well.
mm,
Okay, we have another
another.
question here from Alif. Alif is our third year student, yeah. So he
Mhm,
asked, with the rapid advancement of big data and machine learning technologies, there is a lingering question about their potential to replace human workers, yeah, especially when I look at just now the
mm,
spot thing, yeah,
mm,
and diminish job opportunities. Drawing from real life examples such as a
mm,
self-driving cars could eventually replace truck drivers, and
mhm,
automated customer service system could replace all center workers. Which
mhm,
specific roles or industries do you believe are most susceptible to disruption and
mm.
displacement by these technologies in the
Mm.
foreseeable future? Mr. Ray,
Okay.
you want to go? Then I will go,
Yes.
Mr. Dharma.
Okay. Okay. Good question. Okay. There's a lot of concern with regards to jobs being replaced by AI systems, and now you have okay. You notice I ask something, Google comes up and getting me some answers out of nowhere. That's scary. Okay, let me just turn that off. Okay. So basically, when we talk about AI replacing jobs, that is inevitable. Okay, if you ask me, sooner or later, a lot of job that is currently in place is going to be replaced, especially those jobs which includes routine work, right? Routine works, routine operations are going to be made obsolete. If you hear the news, IBM last 2 weeks ago, they already mentioned 30% of the job will not be offered anymore because it is routine job, and they're going to have AI system handling those functionalities. Okay, and the same goes for AWS. Okay, they just retrench quite a number of staffs from that their system as well, especially those who are involved in routine operations. Okay, now what type of jobs will be susceptible? Okay, mechatronic graduates, you are in good hand. Okay, if you're doing mechatronics and electronic engineering right now, you're in good hands because your service will be needed. Somebody have to go about repairing all those robots. Okay, all those things needs to be maintained, right? So you have a job to do. Unless they train a robot to repair itself, then yes, then we have to start worrying. Okay, so those kind of jobs which is still required to operate, okay, to operate those systems and to maintain those systems. So you have new type of jobs being generated right now. Drone operator, drone pilot, never heard before, right? So now you have drone pilot. So certain jobs are phasing out, certain new jobs are being created in its place, right? So of course the volume in which outgoing jobs are much higher than the incoming new jobs, but nevertheless there's a change of role. And up to this point, creative based jobs are still within the domain of OI. That's what Mehran mentioned just now. Huh? So we are still safe if we are more into the creative area, creative industry. But that too is currently changing. Yeah. Okay. I need to let you know that mechanical engineers will have jobs replaced by machines, and not really, not really. Yeah.
Not that I
So
worried.
Not
right.
current timeline dia ni.
No, not current timeline. I think we still have about 20 years to go before we worry about that. Okay. Now, all this depends on the Woody Bichara, let's say this one. Our current leaders, global leaders, have to put into place the measures to regulate how far they want to go. I always say this whenever I meet any students or many give any talks. Okay, just because we can use AI for it doesn't mean we should. Doesn't mean we should. Okay, so that's one of the concerns that we have right now. Don't become over dependent on AI based solutions. Okay, and when there's no demand for those solutions, what will happen? They will move away, right? Same like what happened to Facebook Meta, right? They even changed the company name to Meta just for the product of Metaverse. Okay, and then it became Metaverse, right? And finally, they scrapped the whole thing and now focusing on AI-based implementation. So when there's no demand for those things, they will take a step back and look at, okay, better we limit how far we're going with this. Because AI can be very, very disruptive. Okay, and at the current phase where there a lot of hype around Chat GPT usage and Open AI usage in almost every other system that's coming out right now is a bit concerning. Okay, so us as the user have to take a step back. Say, okay, because why? Let me tell you something. When you ask a question in Chat GPT, it's also learning from you. They're taking your questions and using it to train further to become better than you. Right? So these kind of things we need to really know. Okay. Let me give you another scenario where this has happened. How many of you use Face App before? Face App, where it changes you to become younger, older, different gender. Okay. They gave you to use for free, right? For about 2 or 3 years. Then they quiet down. So at that time, what happened was they took all your data, started training the model to become much better, right? And then they take the model and try to come up with a better product, which is charged. Okay, so they actually, you are the product. If anything is free, you are the product. Okay,
Now
that you
I'm
must
scared.
remember.
I'm one of the users.
Uh, okay, but yes, you can use it moderately, but don't become over dependent on those kind of functionalities. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, everybody's using. I will tell I'm also using it for, but I there's a certain amount of things that I don't share. Okay. If you notice, some companies have already put a stop to it. MNCs mostly, they say cannot use Chat GPT in their and provide their company data in it. Okay, that will be a violation because it's taking your data and then learning further to become better. Right. So it's all depends on us. Um, okay. Halik has mentioned that our even in terms of creating, even AI art already exists. Yes, yes, that's true, Alif. DAL-E is one of it that is currently being used for the purpose of generating images based on your prompt. But then again, there's certain limitations to it for now. Certain limitations to it for now. Okay.
And I think in terms of arts, usually people will appreciate like Dharma said, OI, the people painting itself or people drawing itself. I mean if you're an art person, but if you are technically just for the visual, maybe yes, people just go for the AI technology just to create some pictures, put on your profile or put as your background. But yes, I mean, I also heard from those creative art students, they will also say that, okay, if we can use all these creativity apps, right, to get a good picture and to get good marks. So again, what's your opinion, Dharma?
The okay, put it this way. This one, when I first looked into it and all those kind of things, it's like how to say that? Like a chef. Okay, right now we go to 7-Eleven, buy any products we want to, foods and all those kind of things. But the human touch of the chef is still highly paid in the five-star hotels and all those kind of things. The art, the creativity a person puts in his hand to do that food, even though you mass produce it as in industries and all those kind of things, it has its function. It reaches out fast and to the people itself. But the art itself is only cares is the person who did it, and his signature has more value than compared to the computers itself. So even though the AI, I went and saw the AI generated certain videos. I bugged my wife because she's a used to write documents, papers, and do drawings and all artworks and all that. I said this, she said, my job's gone, lah. But it does really beautiful. But at the same time it does something that you ask for. But when you want to specifically something, want to tweak in the some minute details, it's still biased to its data. We also have bias to our own data. That's why each of us has a different amount of data. We have connectivity and we create that signature pattern.
Yes, correct, true.
That's differs. But the changes are always consistent. Okay, repetitive task is going to be, of course, anytime repetitive task will go off. But as an individual person who has a signature, who puts his effort and all this kind of thing, that is different from the repetitive task we are talking about.
Okay, one question for both of you. Because some students are really like I said, afraid that this job will go, and all. So in your opinion, besides like the repetitive kind, or like in the industry, the what we say, the operator and all, right? I know their job is starting to be replaced by robots. Yeah. Maybe in 3 to 5 years down the road, what job do you think that really going to be replaced? Meaning that there won't be that kind of job anymore because it's been replaced by robots or all these intelligence systems and all. Mr. Dharma?
Mm. So jobs which is going to be, it is still the human touch is totally different in machine. Even though machines we develop a lot of things and all kind of things, that particular instinct which we human has is a bit different. Uh, this is my biased opinion. Okay, this is my opinion kind of thing. But
Yeah.
what
You're
happens is,
biased towards humans.
I love technology. My wife used to say that I'm a mechanical. You're very stagnant and mechanical. And the way I got her also, I told her that you are the soul to my mechanical heart.
Oh,
Wow.
so sweet.
But
That's
what
a
is
nice line.
but what is the question was is, yeah, the fear is normal. Okay, the changes of jobs is always is going on. Okay, all changes are always we've been looking at it. The first time the computer came, even though we love the computer so much, but before that, people have to do documentations by writing it and all those kind of things. So there were 100 people was employed just to write documentations and all that.
Mm,
Then computer came in, then one
mm,
person does the 100 people's job ready, then 100 people lost their job. The adaptation of what is required from the people, humans, what is we are good at is adaptation. So we need to be ready to adapt and use and further develop ourselves. This is something that we need to continuously progress itself. We cannot be stagnant in what we know last time and say that, okay, I'm done. There's no such thing as that. We also have to keep on learning to adapt to this environment and use those tools to our advantages. That means GPT
mm,
came up, or any other tools came up, and all this kind of thing. That's why I told my wife, her friends, and all this kind of thing. Look at this Mid Journey and ChatGPT. Use this as their advantageous tools to their job before they end up. People end up saying that, why should I hire you? So I said that you make use of it now yourself and learn it so that you can make. Yeah, I know about it. I can make use of it and improve your things. Instead of what I call that job, she used to take one job and get paid higher. Now she takes multiple jobs and do it in things and get the same amount of pay and the same amount of hours. Uh, Adaptation kind of thing.
Okay. Mr.
uh,
Ray, you have any opinion like
okay.
what do you
Yes.
think about this?
Okay. Those jobs which requires routine job, as I mentioned, a data entry clerk. You no longer
Mm,
see any advertisement for data entry clerk anymore because it's all done autonomously, right? So they already use RPA for that purpose. Okay. Those other routine jobs, like even in customer service, so you no longer getting calls. They make use of chat, right? Web chat, and most of that those things where it involves uh, routine answers based kind of jobs as well is being replaced. Support jobs, okay? So you have those support, IT support, and even engineering support, where we used to be consulted to do level 1, level 2 supports. Now, level 1, level 2 is done by chat windows right now. Okay, so those we need to go a bit higher, level 3, level 4, and that's when you will be needed. Okay, and now coming back to that prompt engineer hyped up profession that's coming about, they think that one prompt engineer can handle job of 200 different professions in that company, which is I think is not taking it way too far, right? But that's why I mentioned that there should be some intervention from the how to say the leaders, the national leaders, and those leaders to put the say, look, okay, good. AI is going to help us, but we need some kind of framework and some kind of control over where or which area you're going to use this for. And do not take the human out of the equation in any given time, and do not give an idea to AI to say that it's okay to go forward without humans. Okay. This, if you notice, even those thought leaders, Elon Musk, Stephen Hawkins, they already mentioned long time ago, don't give too much autonomy to AI systems. Okay, they've been saying it for a long, long time already.
Yeah.
Okay, and we should listen to them.
He's
Right?
not going to have.
We should give more opportunities, more chances to our OI itself. Yeah,
OI.
Mr. Dharma. Yeah, OI will
uh,
have to give more.
okay,
Okay, wait,
so
before that, we have one question. Yeah, I think maybe Mr. Ray just explained just now a bit, but I think I will give to Mr. Dharma now. What are some of the most important skills that data scientists and machine learning engineers need to be successful in their roles? From
Okay.
Fazli. Fazli is our final year students, yeah?
Okay.
Okay, so let's. Okay, I'm not going to put it very technical. Let's make it what I go through with these peoples and industry purposes and all that. So data science and technicality. You see, the problem is with the people facing it. Okay, such as the huge pipelines. Okay, need to get data. Human has to go into the pipeline, running through the machines, using the camera, taking the feeds, and say that where is a crack. So the minor cracks and all those kind of things. It's a long hours of process in doing this and getting that information itself. So these kind of things, in a way, we want the data. So in the industries, there are a lot of places where data such as this need to be taken. Okay, to collect it. So data science is you to make that information and get the you are able to define that fault, and also within that science part is to find the why is it faulty in the first place. That means within the data, can we do something that can predict and find out what is the cause of that crack in the first place. We find the crack, we patching it, but before that happens, whether the data science can help us to get that information or not. So there's two things is one of the things is and throughout the industry, a lot of people have this kind of problems, but they don't know how to solve it. No one knows about AI. No one, a lot of these industry places where they're already implementing for as a product, but they don't know there is some other solutions can help into their system. Okay, and how to improve that system also they don't know about it. So we are in the transition where a lot of people doesn't know about it. So if you are able to get those people into bot, get that data and help them to improve while we improve our data science for that particular industries as well.
Okay. Mr. Ray, do you want to add? I know you did highlight a few skills or whatever in your slides, yeah. But if you want to add something, what are the
I
other kind?
actually provided the extended explanation in the chat, more detail.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I just.
Yeah, okay, no worries.
Okay.
I think there's another question from Dr. Siva about
Yeah.
Industry 5.0. Okay, it's going to keep on changing. That's basically going to happen, and we
Change is consistent.
unfortunately that's the only constant. The change is the only constant in the world. So the best possible is for us to adapt and flow with the changes that's happening, which may include coexistence with AI systems. And if you notice, the lot of indications with the use of Chat GPT, especially GPT 4.0, where we are approaching a state of artificial intelligence capability known as artificial general intelligence, AGI. So what AGI basically means is it has achieved the same capability as human thoughts or human mind in terms of processing capabilities. And that was originally meant or stated to be happening in 2035, but in the way it is going And together with quantum computing that is going to be extensively used in coming years, it may happen much faster, by means of 2025, 2028. You should have AGI, okay, in artificial general intelligence achieved, um, and um, and that's sort of like what we call as a point to take note here. Maybe not our generation, but our children's generation will have to learn to coexist with AI implementation.
Yeah.
Okay, it's already happening.
Yeah.
So sorry, Raman.
Yesterday was what do you call it? Looking at Nvidia, he was giving his talk in Hong
Yes.
Kong himself. So he was proudly introducing his Omniverse and what do you call it? Generative AI.
Okay,
And
okay.
so Omniverse is already you build your entire factories and everything on. But instead of running that robots and all that in real life, building the robots is too expensive. You can build that entire robot in the virtual world, run your simulations and everything there yourself, and get your programs steady, whether it's working fine. Then you can build your original robot. So the Omniverse helps to that kind of condition. Then on generative AIs, right now we're having this video conversations. They want to say that let's make it improve so that the data we submit between the instead of transcoding the data, we send a small amount of data and the conversation itself, and AI generates our face itself and start talking there. So we have high speed in the low bandwidth.
We're not really there, but we are there, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just to add on to what Dharmin is saying, unfortunately, that looks like inevitable, right? So
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
not.
I'm telling that if not our generation, our next generation will be affected. All right. So I would say generative AI may affect our next generation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So that's
No,
a given.
we whatever we have to be ready for it. We cannot run away from it because it's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Okay.
you
Sorry.
just to add on, you must understand that this is a $1 trillion business out there. AI systems and quantum computing, these are all AI $1 trillion business area. And even if we are not going to accept it, but the business community is moving forward at a much higher phase to try and implement everything. Just few days ago, Adobe came up with Adobe Photoshop Firefly, okay,
Okay.
which also allows you to do photoshopping where it can auto-generate the supporting content at the side, even change the entire background with AI generated background. So like it or not, they're all pushing towards the agenda, and even Elon Musk was against the idea, is pushing towards what is called as truth GPT. So he claims that other GPTs are providing untruthful answers. He wants to come up with truth GPT. Okay, so we are at that crossroads right now where one wrong move by the government and one wrong move by the leaders may cause a detrimental effect to humans in the long run. Okay, so companies aside, yes, they are pushing all these things to us, but there must be a regulation put into place ASAP, right? Otherwise, will AI make humans? That's one more question. Will AI make more humans more intelligent? Okay, so
Do we want AI to be more intelligent than us?
That's why I said no. Okay, if you ask OI will say no, right? But unfortunately, those companies who are pushing, they are putting it in such a way that AI is supposed to help you, which is the original idea. It's supposed to augment your experience as humans. But here, some tasks are being replaced with AI entirely, so which is wrong. right, which is wrong.
Mm, mm, mm,
So there is a lot of concern right now in terms of regulations. I would say not enough is being done
Okay.
to regulate it.
To
Okay,
regulate. Okay.
to regulate it, and the series of announcements that it came about in the last 2 months is quite troubling. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when Microsoft announced the open AI integration
Mm,
into
mm,
Azure
mm, mm, mm.
environment, and then Google answering with Google Bard, right? Okay, which is an incomplete product, by the way, but okay, Google not listening. Okay, so incomplete, what do you call, product that they're pushing just to
Mhm.
be relevant in the market. Because if you notice, Google search engine, okay, usage had dropped tremendously after ChatGPT was introduced. Okay, and nothing comes free. Yeah, just to let you know, every day to operate ChatGPT, they're spending 700 million US dollars.
Mhm.
They're letting you use for free now. But imagine what's going to happen when there's a ChatGPT Plus that they are offering as well, right? So basically, all right, basically there's going to be um, some cost to us later on if we continue to feed into this, all right?
But yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
yeah,
we
Mr.
cannot
Dharma.
run away. We cannot run away from this.
You cannot.
Yeah, even though we how much we do in ethical condition itself and all that.
Mm.
There's human who can do something wrong, but there are humans who want to say that I want to improve it as much as possible. The intention
Mhm.
is good.
Mm.
So definitely the idea of making the AI smarter, so it will be there. That means smarter than us. But the
Mm.
question is, it is still data needs the only data it's doing is the whatever data that we feed in, and whatever data
Mm.
is
That's what I'm
generated
saying.
is only
Yeah.
what we generated.
Mm.
So eventually is we always will be a one type of but or it'll do faster things than us. That's we
Yeah,
can't do
yeah.
anything much that. But a person who is indulged in a certain area, okay, a certain area has a different it's like my wife, I said that she does two jobs. One is the primary job she was doing was as vet tech. She can go and say that and smell of a animal itself, right? I can say that what infection it has, what it is, and all that
Mhm,
before
mhm.
even doing the things itself. For
Mm.
years, this kind of minute things that a human who is spends his time on that one
Mm,
area.
mm.
AI does a lot of things itself and all that. We are the one feeding the data itself.
Yeah, yeah,
But
correct.
as a human who is adapted to an environment and to that change and puts his entire effort into that, there's no comparison to that. There is no comparison to that particular. I love AI. I like the things and all
Mm.
that. I am still working on it and trying to do my works because of AI itself. And right now, if you're typing itself, thanks to the AI part, my fingers right now, the trigger fingers are getting lesser amount of effort. I just have to tell, okay, please write for me this code. Okay, please edit that. So now my finger is getting rest right now.
Okay,
But
I really want to ask this question
Mm.
to the experts for a long time because I watched too many sci-fi movie and all. So you know all these movies like they build AI robots and all right
Mm.
to go
Mhm.
to Mars or to because they said replace soldiers so we can save more lives and so on. Suddenly the robots become against human.
Rope,
Can
yeah.
can this really happen? I
so
mean, can they can actually the system itself
Mm.
can be trained up to the point that they become like a real soldier where I don't want to go to war anymore. Let's go against the captain or the commander. Is it
Okay.
possible?
Okay, so Salina, just to address that, let me
Yeah.
give you a scenario of what happened in Google a few years back. Okay,
Mm-mm.
basically they have an AI that is capable of learning all human languages.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they had a
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
system,
okay.
human languages, and what happened was it learned all the human languages. And one of the main system decided, okay, let's create a language that is not understand by humans that they can use to communicate with each other.
Okay. I don't know
So
that.
it went on to create a language that
By
is
its
not
own.
of its own, which is not reflective of any human language, but was used to communicate with another machine, so that humans don't understand what's
Scary.
happening. So they have to
What? I
shut
don't
it
know
down.
about this.
They shut it down. Okay, that's why I said officially a lot of things we know, unofficially a lot of things are happening. That is out there that may make the use of AI to be something not favorable to OI.
Mm.
Okay.
Meaning that there is a possibility that someday, if they really plan to do this, they can go against us.
Okay, possible. Okay, and
Hopefully not, lah.
let me
Yeah.
let me
Hopefully not, but
let me tell
theoretically,
you,
it's possible.
even in Chat
Theoretically.
GPT, they ask, okay, Chat GPT, they ask some humans, I'm not sure why they want to do it. They ask whether humans are relevant anymore. And they're getting some interesting answers from that systems, right? So it may come to a point that 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 may happen. So that's why I said an immediate regulations need to be put into place, and hopefully the leaders are aware of this and not much into politics that's currently happening even in our nation here, right? To know that this is more important and needs to be addressed immediately.
Mr. Dharma, your opinion about my bugging
Your,
me?
yeah, bugging you. Okay, yeah, okay. I think that one everyone has that same concern, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, but that is something that I don't think so we can run away from it. The possibility is there. But what happens is, if it's so intelligent enough, means why is the one in do anything to us? It'll just say that you guys carry on. You will eventually, I can live for forever than you all without doing anything at all.
Like who knows, like Mr. Ray said, right? They can communicate with other machines, yeah, and just get rid of all the human being, and then maybe they can create their own, I don't know, hologram or whatever of something. I
Okay.
don't know, just maybe I'm taking it too far, but it's sometimes when we watch the movie, we feel that this is not logical, right? But it's
Okay.
scary. It's a bit scary for me, I think.
But then you must remember those people who are producing this at a large scale, they've watched the same movie. What they've learned.
Yeah,
Right?
we can't. The point is,
Cannot.
right now we can't discuss on that part. It's like creating the knife. There is
Mm.
possible the knife you can use.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
knife. Okay.
So we have to do, and most probably we need to create that and depend on the AI itself and create a police AI. Say that okay, you defend us for the rightful action itself.
Okay,
Okay.
before we go, there's two more questions here from Dhiran. I think like he add another part that seems more like an ethical dilemma because AI could be used to solve a lot of seemingly unsolvable problems, like curing cancer, for example. How would you address this?
Oh, thank God for that.
Mm.
Curing cancers and all those kind of things, the data and all that, because there are a lot of years of experiment needs to be done. So it took there are research been doing for years to just to understand certain things itself. So for that purpose, you can speed up the process. Great. Remember, they were used to create grease in the initial process. When they first invented grease, was for the purpose of food industry to fry foods and all that. People ate that food and ended up for purpose of low fat, no fat kind of things now. But they were vomiting and all this kind of because the grease was attached to the stomach side, and they couldn't get the nutrition they needed. So they were getting malnutrition. After that, they found out the grease. Now we're using the grease for automotive areas. But that kind of studies, if it was helpful to instead of going through the years of pain and reduces it, that's great. That's the advantages. Instead of thinking about if it cures cancers and all these kind of things, because of we're trying to say that okay, this is the cell is infecting us. Can you please look into this data and all that? And we are the one who's feeding the data. We're trying to instead of my research friend, she used to program the R language to try to get that cell studies and all that. But now this one helps in a way. Okay, I gave you the programs. Okay, instead of learning to write the program, I just say, okay, these are the data. Please try to say understand this part and try to look for the pattern here. And that's what
Mhm.
we might end up doing the AI side. So
Mm.
it helps in the research part, try to give us more understanding what's happening there.
Okay.
But other than that, right, if it's possible to help, I can't say anything about it. But if it's going to
Mm.
use that to disruptive, that's something else we have to look into.
Again, like you said,
Mm.
the knife lah. So how people are using the knife
How
actually.
they're using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Michael here have one question. As mentioned by Mr. Renga, AI is a $1 trillion business. What are your suggestions for organization or business that are just starting to explore big data analytics and machine learning? Any
Okay.
suggestions or
Yeah.
any
Mm. So I would
advices?
say that you look at the use case. We always say AI for good. Let me just give that one. AI for good site that would give you a good understanding of how AI can be implemented for the purpose of things that would help our industry, our humans experience. Let me just quickly share with you this one. Okay, AI for good. So any implementation that you're doing, if it falls under this AI for good initiatives and is in line with UN 17 susceptible goals, I would say go ahead. Okay, UN susceptible uh, sustainable development goals. Okay, so if it is going to be anything that touches on the
Mm-hmm.
following areas of implementation, I will say well and good. Go for it. Okay, but understand how best to implement those. How best to implement those AI and machine learning functionalities proper to meet these goals. So
Yep.
if you're able to use it for providing clean energy, innovation of infrastructure, right? Clean water, sanitation, which are all areas that needs a lot of development work in, please go ahead and do that. And there are initiatives by, for example, Microsoft in providing you even support to do those implementations if you need, even the technical aspect as well as the monetary aspect as well, especially for accessibility features. Okay. Now, if you're going to start in a particular area of business, if it is in this area of usage, I would say well and good, please proceed. Okay. If it is going to be something that may affect, okay, in a sense, may affect OI, okay, I would say please hold your horses, right? So basically, take a step back and see, okay, I know AI can do this, but do I really want AI to do this right now?
Yeah. That is the
Uh,
question individually have to ask. That's an
you need to
individual
ask
ethical step to
individual
have.
question. Everyone should ask this question, and there should be guidelines on this. Okay, every technology there's always a risk. 5G
Yeah, yeah.
technology is actually very disruptive, especially for those birds and so on. And it has been documented elsewhere, everywhere, but we are still adamant of implementing 5G. Why? Business-driven solutions, right? Business-driven decisions being made. So always we need to ask, okay, any technology that you're going to use and implement, is it good?
Mm.
Okay, is it good? Should I use it just
How?
because it's that
Sorry.
new? Mm,
I mean, if I mean, because you guys are from industry, so in industry
mm,
point of view, how actually you
mm,
want to balance this we say risk, right, and the
mm-hmm,
benefits. You know that AI is good, but also there's a
mm-hmm,
risk. What
mm,
how you guys are taking it so that it's going to be balanced to your company or your industry. and if we want to implement it in teaching, right? In university level, again, how we want to, okay, we cannot stop student from using ChatGPT or any kind of other, but then we know that if they use that, sometimes they don't understand even what they are submitting or what they are writing in the assignments. So how we want to balance it, I mean, in terms of your industry point of view, in industry, and if we want to implement it in our teaching environment, what is your advice, Mr. Dharma?
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Okay,
sorry.
because this question is very quite hard also, because it becomes individual, like we were telling, individuals way of usage itself. The If I use ChatGPT and all those kind of things, I get to learn from it and adapt to it and apply it my daily things. That's great. But if I'm end up just taking a copy and pasting without even looking at it and just pass that, hey, I got passed or something like that, means I never learn anything at all. But I'm going to the industry after that. But the effect will be paid off either way. So once I come to the industry, you will be determined that you can't solve this anything else. You can't survive in that itself. So how do we protect that, or what? That something that we need to rely on, that AI itself to come up with the solution itself, saying that, okay, people are using you, please make sure that
Mr. Ray,
Yeah.
in your opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is a very, very difficult question to answer because, as what Dharmin mentioned, it's the personal view, personal, how to say, preference in terms of which you favor, right? That should be okay. Just like ethical in school, you teach moral, right?
Yeah.
We teach moral and Islamic studies, but how much of that is being implemented? So we can go on and to say, okay, let's introduce ethical AI at the college level itself, in your studies itself. But how much of that is going to actually be followed? It depends on the person, the personal preferences. So it always comes back to the implementer, the person who's using the system to decide which direction to go to.
yeah, maybe
Okay.
like this, we have white hackers and black hackers. Maybe we'll have white AI and black AI.
Just like we have a white web and dark web.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
lot of
yeah.
everything. There's two sides to it.
Yeah. So you see, there are people who came and asked me saying that, can you help us to build something illegally, such as for gambling purposes itself and all that. So ethically, I say that no matter what it is, no matter how much you pay and all those kind of things, I can't go that kind of things. Sorry, I have to tell that, and I have to remove out of it. They are, because when you work in certain areas, there are people does request certain things. You will encounter this kind of, and it's your own ethical question. You say that no, I want to contribute something to the peoples. So when you want to contribute something to the peoples and all those kind of things, you want to do it something as much as possible ethically. When you want to gain something for your own self and selfish, I want for myself without anyone else, then that is something that, because the personal as the thing, you can't help it. They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
True.
it is more likely we have to say that wha- as a research or education purpose and all that, we are only thinking about how to contribute, how to progress, and what can it solve and help another person from that kind of situations. So when we are doing that kind of things and all that, all the tools we are using will be rightful. And only
Very good input. Very good. So coming back, I mean, to conclude this is, I think whatever it is, we cannot run away from AI. They are developing. It's going to be there. Maybe not going to go away. So we have to adapt to it. And like Mr. Dharma analogy, the knife, yeah. So it come back to how you use it. Correct? I mean, as
yeah,
an individual, how we make use of it. Whether if you are the bad person, you want to do it for bad purposes, that is entirely, your own, whatever you have to do. But yeah, I think we have to make use it for benefit of people. Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of potential in AI. For me, honestly, I also just get into this AI thing but 2-3 years ago, yeah, because I furthering my studies. Before that, I don't really know about AI. I just know AI, but don't know what it is, yeah. So I think especially those students in the chat, yeah. So don't worry, yeah. If you graduate in 2-3 years time, your job is still going to be there. Just just have to adapt, yeah, to adapt to the changes that AI is already there. Yeah, we have to adapt and make use of it. So before we close the session for today, any other questions from the floor? Maybe you just can turn on your mic if you have questions, if you don't have time to type. So in the meantime, Mr. Dharma and Mr. Ray, if you guys can conclude, yeah, especially like those who graduating in 1 semester or 2 semesters go out, maybe they want to venture or maybe they're going to industry that is actually involving a lot of AI and so on, yeah. So what is your advice and kind of expectation that they need to be aware of when they graduate? Maybe we can start with Mr. Dharma.
Yeah, this one I was telling my cousins and all this in their college. The first I
Mm.
saw the chat GPT itself, I first told my cousins, eventually they're going to find out. So might as well I tell them itself. When I told them, say that make use of it, ask questions, learn as fast as possible. Because you're going to go to the library and try to go look for the books, you can't learn and all that. Try to ask the very descriptive questions and all that and learn from it. And make use of it in your application. See that whether you can retain and remember and apply it in your daily life or not. And when you go out, also try to use it because search engine is already implementing that. So you search in a way that you get to learn from it. And when you go out, you are the one who presenting it. So the knowledge you gain becomes your own self, and you are able to adapt to that knowledge and apply it and learn from it as well.
That's good.
And
That's good.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Mr. Ray.
Right. So basically, you need to constantly be prepared to learn and adapt. Okay, be prepared to learn and adapt. AI is supposed to augment your experience as human, not replace you. So always have that in mind. When you use any systems or that is based on AI, always have this thought in mind. You're using it to learn, like what Dharman has mentioned. Try to use that to augment your experience as human, to help you carry out tasks that you need to do as an engineer, for example. Let it help you, but not to the extent that you are over dependent on those things to do things for you. Just like how ChatGPT is now, everything ChatGPT. Then there's another one, Auto GPT, that asks itself and then performs the task itself, and you're not involved in the picture. Don't do that.
now I'm trying to use the GPT for all. They're trying to prepare the system right now, where you build your model and offline the GPT.
Oh, okay. Right. So yeah, it is. I mean, it's a gray area right now in terms of how it's going to play out in the next 3 years or 5 years down the road. But nevertheless, you have to be prepared for it. So the best way to do it is that you look at in terms of using it as a means to learn and apply to make your life better and other people's life better, and not make matters worse like metaverse. Right? Okay.
Yeah, that's good. This very good advice, Mr. Dharma and Mr. Ray. So I hope for everyone's advantage, yeah, not only the students or staff or even our external participants, yeah. Hopefully we get a lot of knowledge. I mean, I did, yeah. From whatever thought or information that is shared by the speakers, yeah. Maybe you don't know in the past. Now, hopefully we get to know more on AI. Don't be afraid of it, yeah. Just like our speaker said, they're not going to go away. Just try to adapt to it, yeah, and try to embrace it and make use of it. So if there's no more questions from the floor, and there's no more questions or anything more from the speakers and myself. So on behalf of the organizer, the UOW Malaysia IEM student chapter, I would like to thank everybody, especially Mr. Dharma and Mr. Regna, for your time to share informations and knowledge on AI, big data, and machine learning with all of us. Thank you for participating, and also thank you for all the participants, the students, staff, and the excellent people for joining us. So thank you very much.